Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Monday, November 14th, 2022, 11 to 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a TFCC call this Wednesday night. We're going to go over the purpose of the midterm election. We're going to go over the current status of things on this planet. And we're going to reveal a few things that people have not looked in that direction about. To recognize, each of us we choose to do so, is to recognize that we are all enlightened beings. From the very beginning of our creation as the gods that we are. It doesn't mean that when we enter these physical forms that we know that. We're on a rediscovery every time we enter a body or some physical form to rediscover the fact that we are enlightened beings. Hence the word Buddha was born many, many moons ago. So Buddha means enlightenment. An enlightened being. So let it be there in your hearts that you are a Buddha. And we're not talking about ego mind at all. Here we're talking through the heart mind. I know it may look presumptuous. It may look very hypothetical. We cannot trust it totally. And there is a little distrust in those who are presented with the understanding that they are Buddha. And it's natural to have that kind of response. But let it be there. But as a seed around that fact, many things will start happening. Only around that fact will you be able to understand they're called sutras. They are immensely powerful, very small, very condensed, seed-like. But with this soil, with the vision in the mind, that we are all Buddhas, that we are all budding Buddhas, that we are potentially capable of becoming Buddha. Not Mahatma Buddha, but Buddha. That nothing is lacking. All is ready. Things just have to be put in the right order. That a little more awareness is needed with this civilization. A little more consciousness is needed with this civilization. The treasure is there. You either choose or you don't. You have to choose to bring a small lamp inside your house. And we aren't talking literally, figuratively. The treasure is there. You have to bring a small lamp inside your house. Once the darkness disappears, you will no longer be a beggar. You will be a Buddha. You will be a sovereign, an emperor. This whole kingdom is yours, and is just for the asking. All you got to do is claim it. But you cannot claim it if you believe that you are a beggar. You cannot claim it. You cannot even dream about claiming it if you think you are a beggar. This idea that we are beggars, that we are ignorant, that we are all, the word sinner, which we all know means miss the target, has been preached from so many pulpits down through the ages that it has become a deep hypnosis in us all. This hypnosis has to be broken. To break it, you start with, I salute the Buddha within you. And there's many words for that. Our essence within these bodies, our energy source. There's many names throughout the ages. Buddha just happens to be another one. Buddha is enlightenment. Buddha means an enlightened being, where you connect with the soul and the God within the soul. To me, we are all Buddhas, period. No doubt whatsoever. All our efforts to become enlightened are absolutely ridiculous if we don't accept this basic fact. All our efforts to become enlightened are ridiculous if we don't accept this basic fact. This has to become a tacit understanding. That we are it. This is the right beginning. Otherwise, we go astray. This is the right beginning. Start with this vision. Don't be worried that this may create some kind of ego. I am a Buddha. Don't be worried. Because the whole process of the Heart Sutra will make it clear to you that the ego is the only thing that does not exist. The only thing that doesn't exist. Everything else is real. Understand what that means? Everything outside of us is the ego mind. Everything outside of us is the ego mind. Within, the ego mind does not exist. In the now, the ego mind does not exist. Through the breath, the ego mind does not exist. There have been teachers who say the world is illusory and the soul is existential. The I is true and all else is illusory. Maya. Buddha says that just the reverse. He sees only the I is untrue and everything else is real. The I is true, right? The I is untrue. From one perspective, the I is true. From another perspective, it is untrue. Everything else is real. So you could agree with Buddha. More than with the other standpoint, Buddha's insight is very penetrating, the most penetrating. Nobody has ever penetrated those realms, depths, and the heights of reality. And you understand that we, the gods that we are supreme reality. But start with the idea, with this climate around you, with this vision. Let it be declared to every cell of your body and every thought of your mind. Let it be declared to every nook and corner of your existence. I am a Buddha. And don't be worried about the I. We will take care of it. I and Buddhahood cannot exist together. Once the Buddhahood becomes revealed, the I disappears, just like darkness disappears when you bring a light in. Before entering the sutras, it will be helpful to understand a little framework, a little structure. The ancient Buddhist scriptures talk about 7 temples, just as Sufis talk about 7 valleys, and Hindus talk about 7 chakras, and the Buddhists talk about 7 temples. The first temple is the physical. The second temple is the psychosomatic. The third temple is psychological. The fourth temple is psycho-spiritual. The fifth temple is spiritual. The sixth temple is spiritu transcendental. And the seventh temple, and the ultimate, the temple of temples, is the transcendental. The sutras belong to the seventh. These are declarations of someone who has entered the seventh temple. The transcendental, the absolute. That is the meaning of the Sanskrit word. Sanskrit, very, very old communication. The Sanskrit word pragya paramita, the wisdom of the beyond, from the beyond, in the beyond. The wisdom that comes only when you have transcended all kinds of identifications, lower or higher. This worldly or that worldly. When you have transcended all kinds of identification, when you are not identified at all, when there is only a pure flame of awareness left with no smoke around it. That's why Buddhists worship this small book, this very, very small book. And they have called it the Heart Sutra, the very heart of religion, the very core. The first temple, the physical, can correspond to the Hindu map with the Muladhara chakra. The second, the psychosomatic, with the Vadhisthana chakra. The third, the psychological, with the Manipura. The fourth, the psycho-spiritual, with the Anahata. The fifth, the spiritual, with the Vishuddha. The sixth, the spiritu transcendental, with Agya. And the seventh, the transcendental, with Sahasrara. Sahasrara means the 1,000-petaled lotus. Sahasrara means the 1,000-petaled lotus. This is a symbol of the ultimate flower. Nothing has remained hidden. All has become unhidden, manifest. The 1,000-petaled lotus, or the Sahasrara, has opened, and the whole sky is filled with its fragrance, its beauty, its benediction. In the modern world, a great work has started in search of the innermost core of the human being. It will be good to understand how far modern efforts lead us. Pavlov, B.F. Skinner, and the other behaviorists go on circling around the physical, the Muladhara. They think man is only the body. They get so involved in the first temple, they get so involved with the physical that they forget everything else. These people are trying to explain man only through the physical, the material. This attitude becomes a hindrance because they are not open. When from the very beginning you deny that there is anything other than the body, then you deny the exploration of itself. This becomes a prejudice, a communist, a Marxist, a behaviorist, an atheist. People who believe that man is only the body. Their very belief closes the doors to higher reality. They become blind, and the physical is there. The physical is the most apparent, needs no proof. The physical body is there. You need not prove it because it need not be proved. It becomes the only reality, and that is nonsense. Then man loses all dignity. All dignity. If there is nothing to grow in or to grow toward, there cannot be any dignity in this life. Then man becomes a thing. Then you are not an opening. Then nothing more is going to happen to you. You are a body. You will eat, you will defecate, and you will eat, and you will make love and produce children, and this will go on and on and on. And one day, you will die. A mechanical repetition of the mundane, the trivia. How can there be any significance, any meaning, any poetry? How can there be any dance? Skinner has written a book, Beyond Freedom and Dignity. It should be called Below Freedom and Dignity, not beyond. It is below. It is the lowest standpoint about man, the ugliest. There is nothing wrong with the body. Remember, I am not against the body. It is a beautiful temple. The ugliness enters when we think it is all. Man can be conceived of as a ladder with 7 rungs, and you become identified with the first rung. You are not going anywhere, and the ladder is there, and the ladder bridges this world and the other, and the ladder bridges matter and godliness. And the first rung is perfectly good if it is used in relationship to the whole ladder. If it functions as a first step, and it's immensely beautiful, it is immensely beautiful, one should be thankful to the body. But if you start worshiping the first rung, and you forget the remaining 6, you forget that the whole ladder exists, and you become closed, confined to the first rung. Then it is no longer a rung at all, because a rung is a rung only when it is part of a ladder. If it is no longer a rung, then you are stuck with it. Hence, people who are materialistic are always stuck. They always feel something is missing. They don't feel they are going anywhere. They move in rounds and circles, and they come again and again and again to the same point. They become tired and bored. They start contemplating how to commit suicide, and their whole effort in life is to find some sensations so something new can happen. But what new can happen? All the things that we go on being occupied with are nothing but toys to play with. Think of these words of Frank Sheep. The soul of man is crying for purpose or meaning. The soul of man is crying for purpose or meaning. And the scientist says, here is a telephone, or look, television. Exactly as one tries to distract a baby crying for its mother by offering it sugar sticks and making funny faces at it. The leaping stream of invention has served extraordinarily well to keep man occupied, to keep him from remembering that which is troubling him. All that the modern world has provided all of us with is nothing but sugar sticks, toys to play with. And we were crying for our mothers. We were crying for love. And we were crying for consciousness. And we were crying for some significance in this life. And they say, look, the telephone. Look, the television. Look, we have brought so many beautiful things for you. And you play around a little bit. Again, you become fed up. Again, you are bored. And again, they go on searching for new toys for us to play with. This state of affairs is absolutely ridiculous. It is so absurd that it seems almost inconceivable how we go on living in it. We are caught at the first rung. Remember that we are in these bodies, but we are not the body. Remember, we are in these bodies, but we are not the body. Let that be a continuous awareness in you. We live in the body, and the body is a beautiful abode. And remember, I'm not for a single moment hinting that you become antibody, that you start denying the body, as the so-called spiritualists have done down through the ages. The materialists go on thinking that the body is all that is, and there are people who move to the opposite extreme, and they start saying that the body is illusory. The body is not. Destroy the body, so the illusion is destroyed, and you can become really real. This other extreme is reaction. The materialist creates his own reaction in the spiritualist, but they are partners in the same business. They are not very different people. The body is beautiful. The body is real. The body has to be lived. The body has to be loved. The body is a great gift of existence. not for a single moment be against it. And not for a single moment think that you are only it. You are far, far bigger. Use the body as a jumping board. The second temple is psychosomatic. Vadasthana. Freudian psychoanalysis functions here. Goes a little higher than Skinner and Pavlov. Freud enters the mysteries of the psychological a little bit more. He's not just a behaviorist, but he never goes beyond dreams. He goes on analyzing dreams. The dream exists as an illusion in us. It is the indicative. It is symbolic. It has a message from the unconscious to be revealed to the conscious. But there is no point in just getting caught in it. Use the dream, but don't become the dream. You are not the dream. Use the dream, but don't become the dream. You are not the dream. And there is no need to make so much fuss about it, as Freudians did. Their whole effort seems to be moving in the dimensions of the dream world. Take note of it. Take a very, very, very clear standpoint about it. Understand its message. And there is really no need to go to anybody else for your dream analysis. If you cannot analyze your dream, nobody else can, because your dream is your dream. And your dream is so personal that nobody else can dream the way you dream. Nobody has ever dreamed the exact same way you dream. Nobody will ever dream the way you dream. Nobody can explain it to you. His interpretation will be his interpretation. Only you can look into it. And in fact, there is no need to analyze a dream. Look at the dream in its totality, with clarity, with alertness, and you will see the message. It is so loud. There is no need to go for a psychoanalysis for 3, 4, 5, 7 years. I've seen some people go 25, 30 years. A person who is dreaming every night and in the day is going to the psychoanalyst to be analyzed, becomes by and by surrounded by dreamy stuff. Just as the first becomes too obsessed with the Muladhara, the physical, the second becomes too obsessed with the sexual. Because the second, the realm of psychosomatic reality, is sex. The second starts interpreting everything in terms of sex. Whatsoever you do, go to the Freudian and he will reduce it to sex. Nothing higher exists for him. He lives in the mud. He does not believe in the lotus. Bring a lotus flower to him. He will look at it and reduce it to the mud. He will say, this is nothing. This is just dirty mud. Has it not come out of dirty mud? If it has come out of dirty mud, then it has to be dirty mud. Reduce everything to its cause. And that is the real. Then every poem is reduced to sex. Everything beautiful is reduced to sex, and perversion, and repression. Michelangelo is a great artist. Then his art has to be reduced to some sexuality. And Freudians go to absurd lengths. They say all the great works of art by Michelangelo, or Goethe, or Byron, which bring great joy to millions of people, are nothing but repressed sex. Maybe Goethe was going to masturbate and was stopped. Millions of people are stopped from masturbation because they don't become ghosts. It is absurd, but Freud is the master of the world of the toilet. He lives there. This is his temple. Art becomes pathology. Poetry becomes pathology. Everything becomes perversion. If Freudian analysis succeeds, then there will be no Halidas, no Shakespeare, no Michelangelo, no Mozart, no Wagner, because everybody will be normal. These are abnormal people. These people are psychologically ill, according to Freud. The greatest are reduced to the lowest. Buddha is ill, according to Freud, because whatsoever he is talking about is nothing but repressed sex. This approach reduces human greatness to ugliness. Be aware of it. Buddha is not ill. You would be calling enlightenment ill. In fact, Freud is ill. The silence of Buddha, the joy of Buddha, the celebration of Buddha. Enlightenment is not ill. It is the full flowering of well-being. But to Freud, the normal person is one who has never sang a song, who has never danced, who has never celebrated, never prayed, never meditated, never done anything creative, is just normal, goes to the office, comes home, eats, drinks, sleeps, and dies, leaves not a trace behind of his or her creativity, leaves not a single signature anywhere. This normal man seems to be very mediocre, dull, dead. There is a suspicion about Freud that because he himself could not create, he was an uncreative person. He was condemning creativity itself as pathology. There is every possibility that he was a mediocre person. It is his mediocreness which feels offended by all the great people of the world. The mediocre mind is trying to reduce all greatness. The mediocre mind cannot accept that there can be any greater being than him. That hurts. This whole psychoanalysis and its interpretation of human life is revenge by the mediocre. And all that's connected to is the ego. Beware of it. It is better than the first and a little ahead of the first. But one has to go and go on going beyond and beyond and beyond. Metta, metta, metta. The third is psychological. Adler lives in a world of psychological, the will to power, at least something very egotistic, but at least something, a little more open than Freud. But the problem is, just like Freud reduces everything to sex, Adler reduces everything to the inferiority complex. People try to become great because they feel inferior. A person trying to become enlightened is a person who is feeling inferior. And a person trying to become enlightened is a person who is on a power trip. This is utterly wrong because we have seen people, a Buddha, a Christ, a Krishna, who are so utterly surrendered that their trip cannot be called a power trip. And when Buddha blooms, he has no ideas of superiority, not at all. He bows down to the whole of existence. He has not that idea of holier than thou, not at all. Everything is holy. Even the dust is divine. And no, he is not thinking himself superior, and he was not striving to become superior. He was not feeling inferior at all. He was born a king. There was no question of inferiority. He was at the top from the very beginning. There was no question of inferiority. He was the richest man in his country, the most powerful man in his country. There was no more power to be attained, no more riches to be attained. He was one of the most beautiful men ever born on this earth. He had one of the most beautiful women as his beloved. All was available to him. But Adler would go on searching for some inferiority because he could not believe that a man could have any goal other than the ego. It is better than Freud, a little higher. Ego is a little higher than sex. Not much higher, but a little. The fourth is psycho-spiritual, anahata, the heart center. Jung, Asaglioli, and others penetrate that realm. They go higher than Pavlov, Freud, and Adler. They open up more possibilities. They accept the world of the irrational, the unconscious. They don't confine themselves to reason. They are more reasonable people. They accept irreason, too. The irrational is not denied but accepted. This is where modern psychology stops, at the fourth rung. And the fourth rung is just in the middle of the whole ladder. 3 rungs on this side and 3 rungs on that side. Modern psychology is not yet a complete science. It is hanging in the middle. It is very shaky. not certain about anything. It is more hypothetical than experimental and experiential. It is still struggling to be. The fifth is spiritual: Islam, Hinduism, Christianity. The mass organized religions remain stuck with the fifth. They don't go beyond the spiritual. All the organized religions, all the churches remain there. The sixth is the spiritu, transcendental. Yoga and other methods all over the world. Down the ages, many methods have been developed, which are less like a church organization, which are not dogmatic, but are more experimental, experiential. You have to do something with your body and mind. You have to create a certain harmony within yourself so that you can ride on that harmony. You can ride on that cloud of harmony and go far away from your ordinary reality. Yoga can comprehend all that. That is the sixth. And the seventh is transcendental: Tantra, Tao, Zen, Buddha's attitude of the seventh. Pragya, Paramita. It means wisdom that is transcendental. Wisdom that comes to you only when all the bodies have been crossed and you have become just a pure awareness, just a witness. Pure subjectivity. Unless man reaches the transcendental, he will have to be provided with toys, sugar sticks. He will have to be provided with false meanings. Unless man reaches the transcendental, he will have to be provided with all of these toys, candies. He will have to be provided with false meanings. You've seen some of these advertisements, American car advertisements. On top of a beautiful, beautiful car, it says, something to believe in. You seen that before? On top of the car commercial, American car advertisement, on top of a beautiful car, it says, something to believe in. Man has never fallen so low. Something to believe in? You believe in a car? Yes, people believe. People believe in their houses. People believe in their cars. People believe in their bank balances. If you look around, you will be surprised. God has disappeared, but belief has not disappeared. God is no longer there. Now there is a Cadillac or a Lincoln. God has disappeared, but man has created new gods. Stalin, Mao. God has disappeared, and man has created new gods. Movie stars. This is for the first time in the history of human consciousness that man has fallen so low. And even if sometimes you were to remember God, it is just an empty word. Maybe when you are in pain, maybe when you are frustrated, then you use God, as if God is aspirin. That's what the so-called religions have made us believe. They say, take God 3 times a day, and you won't feel any pain. So whenever you are in pain, you remember God. God is not an aspirin. God is not a painkiller. A few people, remember God habitually. A few others remember God professionally. A priest remembers professionally. He has nothing to do with God. He is paid for it. He has become proficient. A few people remember habitually, a few professionally, but nobody seems to remember God in deep love. A few people invoke his name when they are miserable. Nobody remembers him when they are in joy, celebrating. And that is the right moment to remember. Because only when you are joyous, immensely joyous, are you close to God. When you're in misery, you are far away. When you're in misery, you are closed. When you are happy, you are open, flowing. You can hold God's hand. So you remember habitually because you have been taught from very childhood. It has become kind of a habit, like smoking. If you smoke, you don't enjoy it much. If you don't smoke, you feel you're missing something. If you remember God every morning, every evening, nothing is attained because the remembrance is not of the heart, just verbal, mental, mechanical. But if you don't remember, you start feeling something is missing. It has become a ritual. Beware of making God a ritual, and beware of becoming professional about it. Here's a story, a very famous story. The story is about a great yogi, very famous, who was promised by a king that if he could go into deep samadhi and remain under the earth for 1 year, the king would give him the best horse in the kingdom as a reward. The king knew that the yogi had a soft heart for horses. He was a great lover of horses. The yogi agreed. He was buried alive for a year. But in the course of the year, the kingdom was overthrown, and nobody remembered to dig up the yogi. About 10 years later, someone remembered. What happened to the yogi? The king sent a few people to find out. The yogi was dug up. He was still in his deep trance. A previously agreed-to mantra was whispered in his ear, and he was roused, and the first thing he said was, "Where's my horse?" 10 years of remaining in silence underneath the earth, but the mind has not changed at all. Where's my horse? Was this man really in trance, in samadhi? Was he thinking about God? He must have been thinking about the horse, but he was professionally proficient and skillful. He must have learned a technique to stop the breathing and to go into a kind of death, but it was technical. Remaining 10 years in such deep silence, and the mind has not changed a little bit. It is exactly the same as if these 10 years had not passed by. If you technically remember God, if you professionally remember God, habitually, mechanically remember God, then nothing is going to happen. All is possible, but all possibilities go through the heart. Hence the name of this scripture, the Heart Sutra. Unless you do something with great love, with great involvement, with great commitment, with sincerity, with authenticity, with your total being, nothing is going to happen. For some people, religion is like an artificial limb. It has neither warmth nor life. And although it helps them to stumble along, it never becomes part of them. It must be strapped on each day. Remember, this has happened to millions of people on this earth. This can happen to you too. Don't create an artificial limb. Let real limbs grow in you. Only then will your life have a warmth. Only then will your life have joy. Not a false smile on the lips, not a pseudo kind of happiness that you pretend to, not a mask, but in reality. Ordinarily, you go on wearing things. Somebody wears a beautiful smile. Somebody wears a very compassionate face. Somebody wears a very, very, very loving personality. But these are all like clothes you put on. Deep down, you remain the same. These sutras can become a revolution. The first thing, the beginning, is always the question. Who am I? And one has to go on asking. When first you ask, who am I? The Muladhara will answer. You are a body. What nonsense. There is no need to ask. You know it already. And the second will say, you are sexuality. And the third will say, you are a power trip, an ego. And so on and so forth. Remember, we have to stop only when there is no answer coming, not before. If some answer is coming, we are this. We are this. And then know well that some center is providing us with an answer. When all the 6 centers have been crossed and all their answers canceled, we go on asking, what am I? And no answer comes from anywhere. It is utter silence. Your question rebounds in yourself. Who am I? And there is silence. No answer arises from anywhere, from any corner. You are absolutely present, absolutely silent, and there is not even a vibration. Who am I? And only silence. Then a miracle happens. We cannot even formulate the question. Answers have become absurd. Then finally the question also becomes absurd. First answers disappear. Then the question also disappears. Because they can live only together. They are like two sides of a coin. If one side has gone, the other cannot be retained. First answers disappear. Then the question disappears. And with the disappearance of question and answer, we come to realize that is transcendental. We know. Yet we cannot say. We know, yet we cannot articulate about it. We know from our very being who we are, but it cannot be verbalized. It is life knowledge. It is not scriptural. It is not borrowed. It is not from others. It has arisen in us all. And with this arising, we are Buddha, enlightened beings. And then we start laughing because we come to know that we have been a Buddha from the very beginning. We had just never looked so deep. We were running around and around and around outside of our being. We had never come home. The philosopher, Arthur Schopenhauer, was walking down a lonely street, buried in thought. He accidentally bumped into another pedestrian. Angered by the jolt and the apparent unconcern of the philosopher, the pedestrian shouted, "Well, who do you think you are?" Still lost in thought, the philosopher said, "Who am I? How I wish I knew." Nobody knows. Knowing this, I don't know who I am, the journey starts. The first sutra. Homage to the perfection of wisdom, the lovely, the holy. This is an invocation. All Indian scriptures start with. They start with an invocation for a certain reason. This is not so in other countries and in other languages. This is not so in Greece. The Indian understanding is that we are hollow bamboos. Only the infinite flows through us. The infinite has to be invoked. We become just instruments of it, or to it. We invoke it. We call it forth to flow through us. That's why nobody knows who wrote this Heart Sutra. It has not been signed because the person who wrote it didn't believe that he was the author of it. He was just an instrumental. He was just like a steno. The dictation was from beyond. It was dictated to him. He has faithfully written it, but he is not the author of it. At the most, just the writer. Homage to the perfection of wisdom, the lovely, the holy. This is the invocation. A few words, but every word is very, very, very pregnant with meaning. Homage is the perfection of wisdom. Perfection of wisdom is the translation of pragya paramita. Pragya means wisdom. Remember, it does not mean knowledge. Knowledge is that which comes through the mind. Knowledge is that which comes from the outside. Knowledge is never original. It can't be original. But its very nature, it is borrowed. Wisdom is your original vision. It does not come from the outside. It grows in you. It is not like an artificial plastic flower that you go to the market and purchase. It is a real rose that grows on the tree. Through the tree, it is the song of the tree. It comes from its innermost core. It arises from its depth. One day it is unexpressed. Another day it is expressed. One day it was unmanifest. Another day it has become manifest. Pragya means wisdom. But in the English language, even wisdom has a different connotation. In English, knowledge means without experience. You go to the university, you gather knowledge. Wisdom means you go to life and you gather experience. So a young man can be knowledgeable but never wise because wisdom needs time. A young man can have degrees. He can be a PhD or a D.Litt. This is not difficult, but only an old man can be wise. Wisdom means knowledge gathered through one's own experience, but it is still from the outside. Pragya is neither knowledge nor wisdom. As ordinarily understood, it is a flowering within, not through experience, not through others, not through life and life's encounters. No. But just by going within in utter silence and allowing that which is hidden there to explode. We are carrying wisdom as a seed within us. It just needs the right soil so that it can sprout. Wisdom is always original. It is always yours and only yours. But remember again, when I say yours, I don't mean that there is an ego involved in it. It is yours in the sense that it comes out of your self-nature, but it has no claim to the ego, because again, ego is part of the mind, not of your inner silence. Paramita means of the beyond, from the beyond time and space. When you move to a state where time disappears, where you move to an inner place where space disappears, when you don't know where you are and when both references have disappeared, time is outside you. So is space outside you. There is a crossing point within you where time disappears. Somebody asked Jesus, a man like any of us, tell us something about the kingdom of God. What will be special there? Jesus is reported to have said, there will be time no longer. There is eternity, a timeless moment. That is the beyond, a spaceless space, a timeless moment. You are no longer confined, so you cannot say where you are. Now look at me. I can say I am here because I am there too. And I cannot say I am in India because I am in China too. And I cannot say that I am on this planet because I am not. When the ego disappears, you are simply one with the whole. You are everywhere and nowhere. You don't exist as a separate entity. You are dissolved. Look in the morning on a beautiful leaf. There is a dewdrop shining in the morning sun, utterly beautiful. And then it starts slipping, and it slips into the ocean. And it was there on the leaf. There was time and space. It had a definition, a personality of its own. Now, once it has dropped into the ocean, you cannot find it anywhere. Not because it has become non-existential. Now it is everywhere. That's why we cannot find it anywhere. We cannot locate it because the whole ocean has become its location. Now it doesn't exist separately. When we don't exist in separation from the whole, there arises Pragya Paramita, the wisdom that is perfect, the wisdom that is from the beyond. Homage to the perfection of wisdom, the lovely, the holy. A beautiful provocation. It says, my homage is to the wisdom that comes when you move into the beyond. And it is lovely, and it is holy. Holy because we have become one with the whole lovely, because the ego that created all kinds of ugliness in our lives is no more. Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. It is true, it is good, it is beautiful. Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. It is true, it is good, it is beautiful. These are the three qualities. Homage to the perfection of wisdom, truth. That's what truth is. The perfection of wisdom, the lovely, the beautiful, the holy, the good. I'll join you in the meditation, and I'll return to close us out. Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose, and an easy and slow breath out of the mouth. Remain still. Shine the light of consciousness into your unconsciousness, and you will feel illumination to your soul. And right now, there is a massive amount of hidden, unknown, buried material in our unconsciousness. Sometime today, bring your awareness into your unconscious. How to do it? Sit in a dark room, close your eyes, relax deeply in your belly and body. Allow any thought to arise that may be hidden beneath the surface. When they do, the instant they enter your mind, imagine you're a bright golden spotlight on them immediately. You're shining this golden spotlight on them. However, this light is so powerful it incinerates the thought and they dissolve instantly, giving you more space for you inside. During this exercise, know that you are safe here, no matter what you experience, even though you may see nothing and feel nothing. Stay present to the void. You may feel your entire body and mind have disappeared. Simply remain present and aware that consciousness is always here. Take this with you for the rest of the day, into the evening and night, and the following morning. We'll return here Tuesday, November 15th, 2022, 3 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call.